Hi guys, today we are going to talk about Phillis Wheatley and the foundation of African American literature. Phillis Wheatley's journey is one of remarkable resilience. Captured from West Africa and sold into slavery as a child, she arrived in Boston around age 7. Defying the era's racial prejudice, she mastered English, Greek, and Latin, and at 20 became the first African American to publish a book of poetry. Her writings exposed the contradiction of the Enlightenment, which promoted liberty and equality yet tolerated slavery. As scholars Henry Louis Gates Jr. and Neil Y. McKay noted, writing for these slaves was not only an activity of mind, it was also a commodity that gained them access to their full humanity. Lily's poetry was a form of resistance, showcasing her intellect and challenging societal norms. Through her work, she paved the way for African American voices in literature and history. In the 18th century, the Enlightenment promoted ideals of liberty and equality. However, in colonial America, slavery was widespread. Enslaved Africans faced brutal conditions, enduring harsh treatment upon arrival. Phillis Wheatley, brought to America as an enslaved child, noticed this contradiction. In her 1774 letter to Reverend Sampson Oakman, she wrote, "How well the cry for liberty and the reverse disposition for the exercise of oppressive power over others agree." This highlights the irony of colonists seeking freedom from British rule while continuing to enslave others. Villie's writing showcased her literary skill and critiqued societal norms. By pointing out the gap between the ideals of liberty and the reality of slavery, she challenged the moral foundations of colonial America. Phillis Wheatley was born in West Africa around 1753 and brought to Boston as a slave at just 7 years old. After being purchased by the Willis family in 1761, her intelligence stood out, and they gave her a rare chance at education. In just 16 months, Phillis mastered English and later studied Greek and Latin. She soon began writing poetry, challenging the era's belief that African Americans lacked intellect. Her early life showcased incredible strength and brilliance as she rose from slavery to become a groundbreaking poet. Phillis Wheatley's poetry weaves themes of redemption with critics of injustice. In Being Brought from Africa to America, she writes, "'Twas mercy brought me from my pagan land, taught my benighted soul to understand," showing her complex feeling about Christianity despite enslavement. She also challenged racism, stating, "Remember, Christians, Negroes, black as clean, may be refined and join the angelic train," affirming black people's spiritual equality. In To the University of Cambridge, she warned students against sin, writing, "An Ethiop tells you 'tis your greatest foe. Its transient sweetness turns to endless pain," while asserting her African identity. Through her poetry, Whitney used Enlightenment ideas to call for equality and critique slavery, establishing herself as a literary pioneer. In 1775, Phillis Wheatley wrote to His Excellency General Washington, praising his leadership in the fight for liberty. Proceed, great chief, with virtue on thy side, a crown, a mansion, and a throne that shine with gold unfading Washington be thine. She sent the poem directly to Washington, who replied in 1776, calling her Mrs. Phillis and thanking her for her elegant lines. This correspondence, followed by a meeting in March 1776, symbolized a mutual respect during a time of deep racial prejudice. This exchange highlights Willie's bold advocacy for liberty and equality, and her ability to inspire even the most prominent leaders of the Revolution. Phillis Wheatley, the first African American woman to publish a book of poetry, broke barriers and inspired black writers across generations. Her work challenged the racial stereotypes and proved the strength of African American voices in literature. As Henry Louis Gates Jr. and Neil Y. McKay wrote, 2 centuries separate the publication of Phillis Wheatley's curious book of poems and Toni Morrison's reception of the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1993. This shows how her influence connects the earliest literary works to modern achievements. Wheatley's legacy inspired writers like Jupiter Hammond, who dedicated an address to Mrs. Phillis Wheatley in 1778, and her impact is felt in the works of Langston Hughes, Zora Neale Hurston, and James Baldwin. She paved the way for exploring identity, freedom, and justice in American literature. Phillis Wheatley's rise from slavery to becoming the first African American woman to publish a book of poetry demonstrates the power of intellect, creativity, and resilience. Her work not only displayed her talent but also challenged the racial prejudice in 18th century America. Her words: "In every human breast, God has implanted a principle, which we call love of freedom," showing her deep belief in universal rights and the human desire for liberty. Learning about Lily helps us recognize the voices of marginalized people and build a more inclusive understanding of American history and culture. Here are my references for my quotes and citations. Thank you.